It's Maria's Mutts and Stuff.
What a great idea!
On iHeartRadio.
So welcome to Maria's Mutts and Stuff. So before I start, first I have to tell you, I believe you are my first very, very long distance guest because you both are in Vienna. So that means is it like 8:00 at night by you?
Yeah.
It is. So I really appreciate because this is like late for you, but I appreciate that you're here with me. It's Elsa Kremser and Levin Peter, and it's about your movie, your documentary, Space Dogs, which I very much enjoyed. I love dogs. It's a heavy movie, but in a good way.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. So just to give the background for our listeners and viewers, so it's a documentary that starts off about Laika, which was the first animal basically to be put into space many, many years ago. And I believe that we were told that the dog came back, but then and died eventually, when in fact the dog died shortly after takeoff. Which if anybody Googles it, they would know that, but you addressed that at the beginning of the movie. So what made you decide to make this movie?
Yeah, actually in the very beginning, we had the idea to make a film about a pack of stray dogs. And the story of Laika was not yet in our minds.
Okay.
But as soon as because we wanted to make a film which is changing the perspective. So the eye level, make a film in the eye level of the dogs, where dogs are the main heroes, but in a documentary way and not a Disney way. Like where we as the humans can really observe these animals and really get an encounter. This is what our goal was in the beginning. And then we just researched a lot about dogs in general. Obviously, you come above Laika in this research.
Right.
And then we read just very simple on Wikipedia that she was a street dog and that she was actually living in the Moscow streets. And then we knew where we have to search for stray dogs. So we went to Moscow the first time. We've never been to Russia before, and just said, okay, let's go there and let's see where her descendants are.
And so by going to Moscow and the dogs, because it's predominantly like 2 or 3 dogs, but mainly 2 dogs. So you just randomly found those dogs on the streets when you went?
Kind of. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, we had to do we even call it a casting.
Okay.
Because like Moscow is not Moscow. It's very different in the regions. Like you go and you see and you search for. And of course we knew we need to find dogs that we can, from our director's perspective, trust on to lead, to narrate, to entertain too.
Right.
A 90-minute movie.
Sure.
And so we had some ideas very early that we searched for a young main dog in our film, because like young dogs, especially in the street, they have to look for things. They have to understand the world. They have to understand us humans.
Sure.
They are more playful. There's more.
Right. They're probably a little more trusting too, I would think, than an older street dog. Correct?
Yeah, they're very different.
Yeah.
And he was also challenging the other dogs, and there was more dynamic. We were new in the city. We did not speak the language. We had no understanding of the city. And we tried to follow some hints by people who know better. And we simply went from north to south in different directions. And we of course understood that in the outskirts, the chance is better to find them.
Right.
And then we found plenty, but we had to keep the balance between the good area, the good background, interesting neighborhood, and most importantly, like the interesting dogs. And how we actually found them was by accident. And then
wow, that's amazing. By accident. Tell me.
We've been in the car. It was late, a long research day with our assistant, and then there was a white dog who's not in the film, but she was actually leading us to this bar you see in the film, very colorful. And there were plenty of dogs, and this is how we decided where to film.
This dog was actually just crossing the street, and we were putting on the brake and saying stop, and jumping out of the car and following these dogs. Yeah.
Wow. It's almost like that white dog was the casting director, you know?
Yeah.
Come this way, I'll show you the good dogs to be in your movie. No, because the dogs that you had in the movie, and again, for those who will watch the movie, because I don't want to give parts away, even though I have some questions, it's basically you are living on the street with the dogs, basically, because you see how they live, how they look for food, you know, stuff that, not that we take it for granted, but I think sometimes people don't think about stray dogs so much, you know, or if they do, they don't think a stray dog is the same dog as their pet.
Yeah, true. It's like
like a street dog has to fight for everything, has to feed itself, has to survive. It's a completely different dynamic than a pet. So I think the fact that you give the whole perspective from the level of a street dog, I don't think it's been done before. And it's kind of fascinating to watch it, you know, and like, I'm sure anyone who's a dog lover knows things about dogs, like knowing anything about dogs. Well, they're traveling together, and at some point, well, they argue for a second. Why? Well, because one is taking food from the other. Well, you're a street dog. So it was really excellent the way you showed all that, to show like the true soul of a dog.
Thank you.
I really think so. Yeah. So those two dogs were so perfect. And that was my point. Sorry, I went off on that. But those dogs were just perfect, like very well cast. How long did it take you to shoot all that, like over a time period?
It was over a time period of 6 months.
Okay.
Where we had around 60 shooting days. So we had breaks in between. We left back home for Vienna and came again. So we came in 3 times. But what you actually see in the film is just the last 5 weeks. Because the first was like all this training with the camera, like that we were fit enough to get the images we want, and that the dogs got used to us and accepted us as a part of the pack, like as companions in a way.
Right.
Because in the beginning they were sleeping, and then out of a sudden, of course, they just ran away and crossed the street and were super fast, and we could just not follow them. Right. So after all these weeks and months, we understood more what is their rhythm, when is the most active time of them, and they are repetitive animals. It's
right.
Like,
sure.
You observe them, you know their favorite ways, and if they run the street, it's very likely that they turn right and then left. So we knew.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Yeah. Creatures of habit. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, this is a stupid question. So when, say you wrapped up filming for the day, did you keep the dogs? You didn't just leave them on the street and then have to go find them.
No. I mean, it would never have been able to.
Right, because then you'd have to go. Right, that's what I figured. I told you it's a stupid question.
No, I mean it's understandable that you ask, because it's not so obvious, like their way of their daily routine and
sure.
Because it's not the focus of the film. But it was simple. It was really simple. We had, our main focus was the time from, let's say, 1 o'clock in the night.
Okay.
1 a.m.
1 a.m.
Early morning hours, because this was the time when the day is like, the night is shifting to the day. The light is very beautiful, but most important, humans are at their homes.
Exactly. Streets are empty.
Yeah, and there's much more space. So they really kind of conquer the street in this moment. They fight for their territory. They go on long walks and searches. So we arrived almost every night around this time. Most of the time they were in the same spot to, let's say, hang out.
Right.
And we were waiting until they were ready to do something. And if we did not see them, we simply had to wait, sometimes even for hours, because they always came back to the spot. They were sleeping there. It wasn't their house.
Right.
Parking lot. So we were kind of lucky. And of course, we've been afraid all the time. And this was part of the main challenge in directing this film, that we knew it could happen every morning, that we did not find them again because they left, which is not so typical, but maybe they've been catched or something. But we were just lucky that we, this 6 months, we always found them again. And on one point, we became so close that maybe they even have waited for our presence.
Oh, really? Wow. Well, sure, because I'm sure you gave them treats and you fed them and
No,
Actually,
not
we
at
did,
all.
we did
no,
not feed them. We hugged them and we had a very close contact. So we've been really kind of part of the pack, accepted.
Right.
Very early we decided that we do not want to feed them because these dogs were not starving. They actually enough food to be healthy. They find trash, but also people passing by to go on the way to work in to the metro station. They just gave a little food, so they were used to receive enough food. And what we observed a lot is that as soon as a human is giving them food, the position is totally changed. So the human is a food giver and more like the relationship is changing a lot.
Correct. I get that.
Yeah, companions.
Right.
Neutral and not the good guys or the bad guys.
Got it. Right. You want to be part of their pack and not be their caretaker. So exactly. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So when you were done shooting, was it like bye-bye? Like, do you miss the dogs? You must miss them, right?
This was actually one of the toughest points because in documentary filmmaking, you can make a goodbye party for humans and you can tell them when you meet again and you exchange phone number and then you invite them for the premiere and so on.
Right.
But they've been there, the whole team, we've been 5 people on the shooting. And like, okay, now it's time to say goodbye, but we can't because
I know, it's like kind of sad because you probably got very attached to them. You know, they're the stars of your movie.
Yeah, but actually, luckily at the Russian premiere in the film festival in Moscow, we went there like 2 years after the last shooting day. It was quite some time passed. And we went, of course, we came out of the plane and went directly to the shooting spot. And they've been there in the same, all healthy.
Oh, that's excellent. I must have made you feel so good. That makes me happy to hear it. No, that's excellent. Well, that's good. And you know, if you go back and you visit them in 3 months, they'll probably still be there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they recognized you, right? Because dogs are they're smart. They knew your smell and everything. That's pretty cool. So I have a question about one of the scenes, and I don't want to give it away for anyone who's, for my listeners who will watch the movie. The scene with the cat actually made me go, just because I wasn't expecting. Was that a random? Did that happen randomly?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and also from our side, we don't want to spoil it. But
no, I don't want to spoil it either. That's why I was trying to diplomatically ask you about it.
What happened in this morning got us same out of the blue, like probably every viewer in the world who's watching the film. So this was not planned. This was not I mean, there was no chance.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible.
We've been sitting for. I mean, we developed this film over 2 years and to get it financed, and so it's always in our mind what could possibly happen. And of course, this was the demand by the financiers too. Like, will there be any happening? Because how can you trust in a narrative because there's street dogs, and so
of course you had no control really when doing it like that. Of course,
almost no control. So we had stupid things in mind and funny things and sad things, and we tried to collect everything that we had in mind, and also all the things we've seen and researched, which was also pretty long.
Right.
But something like this, of course, you would never have in mind. I mean, we were more focused on territory fightings between the dogs, because we saw and researched that this is very intense and part of that.
Sure. Wow.
But we simply captured, and I mean, while shooting, it was just shocking, but we were in our filmmaking routine. It became on another level very challenging in editing, of course, when you have such a scene and you have to choose the right position in the film.
Of course. And you did an excellent job editing that, because it takes the emotion out of it. And again, I want to be I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it takes the emotion of like me going, out of it, and then it puts you back into the thought of these are street dogs.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie is about. This scene makes complete sense to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so
great.
your editing was perfect because it made it objective instead of emotional.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Right?
Yeah, right.
So,
Because when you might see there's something shocking, but then you can start to reflect, and it's all about our
correct.
interpretation and our images of dogs and animals we generally have. And so this
Right.
is questioning our own thoughts or prejudices we have about animals.
That's right. Right. Exactly. And it becomes, these aren't humans, these are animals, and this is how animals behave. So, right. So, yeah, and that makes perfect sense. And I think for me, the upshot of the whole movie towards the end, it just left me with the feeling, and I mean, we know this, that humans, it's like the cruelty of humans. Was that part of your intent?
This was again on both layers. I mean, when you're there so long, then things happen in front of your camera that you would never have thought about. Then you're in the editing room, always have to find this balance between the truth, like what you emotionally want to tell, want to give, because it's deeply what you experienced. And the other level is the storytelling.
Sure.
And with this ending that we choose, we knew it's gonna, I mean, it's not the moment like, I understood that there's always hope or something. No, our relation to animals is always paradox and it's not even understandable, like what individuals decide to do with animals.
Right.
And we tried it with another ending, but then we simply could not sleep and thought like, no, I mean, it's what we experienced. Why to fake it? I mean,
correct.
Emotionally, it was one of the toughest moments for us. It was hard to take. But it tells a lot more about our relationship here on this planet than any possible other ending we could have chosen.
And besides that, we see a lot of hope in this scene too.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Right.
It's a look into the future, into
that's right.
possible life of a new dog.
That's right. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I feel like the way the movie started and the way it ended, it's almost like wrapped up with a nice bow, but it also gives you hope. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
And it's like, because there is no fairy tale with just an happy end. I mean,
well, that's true. Then it would be a rom-com, and that's not what you were making.
Yeah, true.
You know, like we. So how difficult was it to get the footage of like the Soviet space animals? And because that footage, I mean, I never saw stuff like that before, which was really cool. And I just kept thinking, wow, this stuff is probably have been, I'm sure, in a vault for years that they didn't want, the world to see. Was it difficult to get permission or to get that footage?
It was quite, like you said, you named it. It was 3 years of intensive search, first of all. We had to find out where it actually is. Because in the classic archives in Moscow, they have several images which we are used to see from some TV documentaries.
Sure.
So some are public, but we knew there must be more because we read and heard that they filmed excessively, a lot, like all the different stages and all the different dogs and missions. And then, in fact, the institute, who now actually is working with for the healthcare of the cosmonauts who are still going to ISS. So it's an institute which is still running, and they had this so far unpublished material, which we could, after long explanations, and we needed to tell them what kind of film this is. And it's a very uncommon film. It's not, you cannot easily explain, especially if there is nothing yet to watch, what this film is about. And then you tell and we want to see the images of the space dogs and of all the experiments they made. And so this took a while to get the trust in each other, but we're very thankful for that and for their I think it's a brave decision also from this institute.
Oh yeah, no, I thought it was amazing, and I'm sure anyone who sees it, because it's stuff that you never saw before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know, but it's stuff that actually happened. You know, it's like watching old news footage. Like I was even surprised they even had footage of that,
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
because you would think now in today's day, you don't want footage of that because, you know, I mean, not that it was cruel, but not intentionally cruel. You know, it was space. It was back. I feel like back in the time when things were primitive. So I look at things when you go back so many years where we didn't have the knowledge that you have today,
Yeah.
you know? But no, I thought it was incredible. I mean, the way the movie started with Laika and then in the middle to have from the Soviet space program, I just thought it was perfect. I mean, everything in the movie was really perfect. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
So it's going to have officially opens on September 11th. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And where can listeners watch the movie, see the movie?
Actually, on a lot of different, it's a long list
Okay.
of like individual theaters who provide online service.
For
in the moment.
example, Alamo Drive.
Like Alamo, correct. Okay.
We are not US based, so we trust in the people who work with our film in your
That's
country.
true. Well, I'll find it. I'll find it and let my listeners know where to find it.
I mean, we checked in a lot of different theaters who normally work physically, of course. Now,
Right. Now everything's, yeah.
program, and we are kind of part of a lot now. I mean, and nationwide, you can watch the film a week later.
On
Yeah.
the 18th, on September 18th.
11, this is just exclusively on Alamo and another platform.
Right. And then
yeah.
nationwide on the 18th.
Yeah.
Okay. So what, and I'm sure you're not even in your head yet, but what, do you have a next project in mind?
Yeah, of course.
You do? Do you want to give little hints about it, or can you talk about it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And there's a second dog movie, which is already shot. We will make a dog trilogy, in fact.
What is it? A doc?
A dog trilogy.
Oh, a dog trilogy. Okay. Oh, so is this number one of the trilogy?
Exactly.
Oh, interesting. And it's probably because you have so much footage that you haven't used for the first one?
But it's a very singular story. It doesn't have too much to do. It's a film about a group of homeless people who are living together with stray dogs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it doesn't have anything to do anymore with space.
Right.
It's about living together, because now in Space Dogs, you see space dogs and the stray dogs who are really free.
Right.
And you see a real community, like how humans and dogs are living together, actually.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
Way. Yeah.
Okay. And so that's the second. And is the third also with dogs and homeless people, or another, or you haven't decided yet? Oh, you don't want to tell me?
No, there's simply just, we know that we will close this trilogy one day, but we don't know when.
Oh, okay. So that's why you haven't, like, okay, that's fine. That's cool. And when do you think the next, not that I'm in a rush, but the second of the trilogy, when, do you have a date in mind or a time?
Next year on one festival that will.
Oh, okay. 2021.
2021.
Yeah, not earlier.
End of 2021, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for this. I'm very excited about Space Dogs, and I know that my listeners will definitely watch it and see it and be curious about it, because like me and like you, we love dogs. So Elsa Kremser and Levin Peter, I thank you so very much for talking with me about Space Dogs. I look forward to the next part of the trilogy. And when the next one comes out, maybe next year, can we speak again? That would be great. All right. Well, good luck with this, and thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
New York's classic rock, Q1043.